Hello, everyone. Welcome to Community CPA's webinar. It is Thursday, so that means that it's kind of our special day where we bring in a guest speaker to talk regarding business opportunities and things that are impacting our business communities that we are a part of. As many of you know, Community CPA is a full-service accounting firm, so we do taxes, accounting, payroll, business consultation, and we host these webinars to give you resources and also to help educate the community. So today we have my friend on. Their name is Fixmer-Oraiz, and they are a Democrat running for Johnson County Supervisor to serve the community that they call home for the past 10 years. They're owner of Astig Planning, a business planning and consulting company. So happy to have you on, V. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing about what you're doing. So could you first kick it off with telling us a bit about yourself and your background and kind of what's brought you to this, right?
Yeah, thanks. I'm so excited to be here with you all. And yeah, my name is Fixmer-Oraiz, and I am the CEO and founder of Astig Planning, which is a local planning firm here in Iowa City. And we really focus on climate change impacts and racial and social justice. So we like to take a human-centered approach to our planning projects. And we've been really fortunate to have plans with counties and cities all across the state of Iowa. And our team is really diverse. We are multilingual, multicultural. I think that is something that is incredibly important when you're, thinking about planning and creating plans, that you have people that, have different experiences at the table to bring people together. So we're really bridge builders. We like to think of ourselves as, we have professional experience as planners, we have those kind of skills and we massage our keyboards, and we make maps and do all fun things like that. But then we have, of course, the lived experiences of community members, and we try and bridge those, we make those bridges between community members and decision makers. So it's really an incredible time to be here now because there is so much that is going on. Obviously, the COVID-19 pandemic has just sort of exploited those further widening social gaps. And so I think a lot of community members and communities are really trying to figure out what's next? How do we plan for, healing? How do we plan for making sure that we're resilient? What does that look like? And that's really where we come in. We convene people, whether that's experts or people just down the street next to a creek that floods, or, people that have a hard time getting access to parks or transportation or food. Because oftentimes I feel like, cities and counties really want to do the right thing. They want to make sure that they're, focusing on the issues at hand, being very effective with their budgets. And sometimes that means that people's voices get left out and their experiences get left out. And so how do we do that in a way that really honors the authenticity of community members and their experiences and their depth of knowledge? And then also, tries to highlight the experiences and plans and ideas of decision makers so that they can come together and really make something that is co-creative. Right. And so that's kind of where we plan, is at that nexus. And then I am also running for Johnson County Board of Supervisors. I'm really excited at the possibility of being able to serve the wider Johnson County. And I think, I have a lot of the qualifications in terms of, I have a master's in urban and regional planning. A lot of our plans have been around resilience. I started my own firm, so I'm a small business owner. And my identities are really, aspects that have been marginalized. So as, somebody that's half Filipino, half American, also queer, trans, non-binary, I know what it's like to live on the margins, and I know what it's like to have barriers in front of me. Even if I don't see them, I can feel them. And so I feel like bringing that lens to not only being a supervisor, being a planner, has really helped me be able to, see those margins, see the people that are being left out, and making sure that we're planning for every Johnson County community member to thrive.
Right. So as a minority business owner, are there some challenges that you've had in your company in the business ecosystem space that you're a part of? And if you feel comfortable, feel free to share any examples of that.
Yeah. I find that it can be, I didn't know this, but apparently being the CEO of a company can be very lonely. I did not realize that. You can't really be friends with your colleagues in the ways that you would normally think.
Right.
And so I think also being a minority, it further silos you. You don't have as much community around, and where are those resources? And so, yeah, I've definitely struggled and continue to struggle, like where do I get those resources? Who do I reach out to? Is it the city? Is it the local economic development? Do I talk to my CPA? Do I, where do I find quote unquote my people for lack of a better term, and as you know, I mean, how we got to know each other was through the RE Connect Collective, Racial Equity Connect Collective, that I co-founded with Tracy John Sargent, the executive director for the Multicultural Development Center of Iowa City. And so like any one of us kind of on our own, it feels kind of out in this nebulous space, whether you're a small business or, a nonprofit that serves communities that are underserved or underestimated. So how do we come together and feel less isolated, really amplify our voices? So I get it. Like, I think that those are some of the roadblocks are, first of all, who are around us? How can we kind of come together, get to know where our resources are, and then also advocate for our communities that we serve? Whether that's immigrants or people of color or queer people, how do we make sure that the services that we're providing are really getting the resources that maybe go elsewhere because we don't have as loud of a voice or we don't have a seat at the table? And so I think those are some really real barriers that I've faced and continue to face, is that isolation. And that can be really harming if you don't know that there are resources out there. I mean, that could be, a month's rent, or it could be a piece of equipment, or, or a networking opportunity that got you a grant. And so I think it's, when it comes down to it, it's all about relationships and feeling like we're connected. And so I think that's essential.
Right, definitely. And then in terms of creating that ecosystem that does foster like those connections and relationships, what are your thoughts on how we get there, right? It seems like that's a really big challenge.
It is a really big challenge, and I'm glad you brought that up. So my planning firm kind of, through the work of the RE Connect Collective, we realized, kind of looking around, like, well, where are the resources? What are the resources? Who is being served? And the business community around us is like, well, we don't know. We don't know kind of baseline information, like who is being provided access to loans, or even how many minority business owners there are, or queer owners there are in our community. So there's no baseline amount of information, but then there was also no dialogue happening with business owners, underestimated business owners. And so we decided, like, well, we need this. And it's kind of unusual. Usually as a planning firm, you kind of get requests for proposals and you submit your proposal. This was different in that we were like, we see a need in our community, in our county, and we just shopped it around and we said, who will help us pay for this? We need resources. They're out here in our business community. Can you give us some resources to conduct this plan? So we did that. We received some funding from the Iowa City Area Development Group and also Green State Credit Union. We're receiving some support, not financial, but certainly some handholding and some assistance from the Iowa City Area Business Partnership and many others, the Multicultural Development Center of Iowa obviously being a big part of that as well. And so now we're creating this inclusive economic development plan. And it's basically been about 8 months is the timeline. We started back in November doing research and putting together a survey, and now we're starting our focus groups, and we're really looking at something that is human-centered and community-led. So what that really looks like is this survey is, first of all, it's multilingual. We have it translated into 4 different languages, and so I really want to help spread the word and get that out to people. I can share my screen actually and show you
please.
kind of what that looks like in the world here of interwebs. So this is the Inclusive Economic Development Plan landing page. And it's just on our website, and I can hand you the link. But essentially, we are asking people who are historically underestimated. So we have that term to really kind of capture BIPOC, Indigenous, immigrant, LGBTQ+, women, people with disabilities. So if you're an underestimated community member who owns a business or has an idea for opening a business, we want to hear from you. And you can come to the site and you can share a story. We really want to be very input, give us your stories. Stories are what really connect people. And you can just send it and it'll go to one of our staff and it'll be included in this plan. And then here's the survey, and you can see the 4 languages that we have here. Yeah, and so you just click there. It takes you to the survey. It'll look like this. And then you can do whichever language, hopefully one of those. Demographically, when we've done our planning work, those were the 4 highest languages. And then off you go into the survey. We're also going to be hosting some focus groups around the county. So if you are interested, please do contact me, and Catherine has my contact information as well. We'd like to get a sense of what are the opportunities, what are the barriers, what are the stories, and we're really resilient folks. So what are the workarounds people have been doing? I'm really curious. Everybody gets really creative because we're just a tenacious group. We have a dream. We want to see it actualized. And we get it done. And it's been already incredible to see the responses from the stories have been just really heartbreaking in many ways, really visceral. People talking about how they've never gotten a loan over 25 years and they never will. They're just things like that I think really convey not even just what's going on, but the feeling of what's going on, so that you can't just look away. Right. You can't just say, well, yeah, we would have liked to help you, but your credit score. You can't do that when you really hear people's stories. It really humanizes the fact that people are struggling, they've overcome struggle, there's joy, there's a lot of emotions that get tied up into it. So yeah, we're really excited. And so after this, then we're going to be hosting 2 strategic doing sessions where we bring together lenders and business owners and other folks into the room to say, okay, here's what we learned. Now, what are we going to do? We don't want to go back to business as usual. We know that doesn't work. It doesn't work for everybody. So let's do something else. And I'm excited about that. That'll be in June. Or I'm sorry, that'll be about in May. And then in June, we'll try and put things back and give it back to the community and say, what do you think about this?
Right. So that seems like a really great process. So in terms of then the deliverables, it will be at that point where after you've seen all the responses and then the sessions that you're discussing. Awesome. Do you know who will be in those conversations, those planning type of sessions?
The strategic doing sessions, we haven't identified everybody yet. I think in the focus groups, we'll be asking folks if they want to be involved. And we have gotten a lot of responses via email, people that are just interested. So we don't want to be exclusive, we want to be inclusive. So if it turns out that, it's a large group of folks, then maybe we do it virtually and some people attend online and some people attend in person, just thinking of COVID, trying to be responsive. But yeah, I think anybody and everybody who is interested in being a part of that should be, whether you have an idea for a business, you own a business, or even, if you stopped owning a business, why did you stop owning a business? What happened? Maybe it was something in your life, but maybe it was, something that other people are experiencing that we can find some creative solutions to that. So that's kind of what we're looking at.
That sounds like an awesome initiative, and we'll definitely want to hear some of the results and also participate in that. So yeah,
absolutely.
Those are all great. So any other thoughts that you have regarding the ecosystem or anything else you'd like to share from your work or what you're planning with Johnson County Supervisors as you're running for that?
Yeah, I think, really what I want to do is listen. I mean, I've kind of done my, this is who I am and why I think it's important, why I'm running, I guess, is really because I think that we're at a critical moment. Like I said earlier, COVID-19 has just devastated our planet, really. And so we've had entire communities fall through cracks and safety nets that people thought were there. We've lost a lot of people. I've personally lost my grandmother, two grandmothers. And so there's a lot of grief. And I think people want to heal. I think people want to see what is the next step? How are we going to plan for, I'm going to knock on wood here, but the next pandemic? How are we going to be resilient in a way that makes it so that everybody in Johnson County has what they need to thrive, no matter what, so whether that's housing or food or transportation, we know that there are issues and we may not solve them in our lifetime, but let's keep at it. Let's keep going in that direction. So that's really why I'm running. I think that it's just a really critical time to pivot and to embrace, what is really good about humans. What we really want to do is care for one another. So I fully believe that. And yeah, I really want to listen. I want to hear, what are people experiencing? Small businesses. I'm excited to get this inclusive economic development plan in people's hands. I really want to know what is going on so that we can figure out what are some of the workarounds. And that's why it's important that we have banks involved. That's why important, absolutely, that we have the business support like ICAD and the business partnership, we have, and the university too, University of Iowa, just really big industry employers.
Right.
I think it's important.
They're big parts of our community, right? So.
Exactly. When you look at economic development, I mean, small businesses certainly are the backbone of our communities. And that's also housing. It's also childcare. It's also, access to food, transportation. So economic development is really a lot of things. Right. And I think that we need to figure out what are some of the real barriers. So yeah, I feel like that's kind of where we're at, where I'm at. And I just really want to hear from folks what they're experiencing.
Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, for sure, we will connect you with those who are on this call today, as well as those who signed up but weren't able to make it. We'll open it up for anyone who has questions now. Feel free to pop it in the chat if you do. V, do you want to show us maybe your website and how they can contact you?
Absolutely. So you can come to our homepage. It's just astigplanning.com. And that's me and my son, actually. And then if you go to economic, this tab, it's oh, you got to get one word. You can't put inclusive economic development plan on your website. Nobody will check that out. So that's where you can find the inclusive economic development plan information. And then if you wanted to contact me, you can, come to this contact page and fill that out. You can also email me directly. I can put well, I was going to say I could put it in chat. I don't know. Does that work? Vifix-Oraiz.
That will work.
At astigplanning.com.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And in terms of services that Astig provides for businesses, what are the types of businesses that often come to you for consulting?
Yeah, so we do work with businesses. We're racial equity consultants. So we work we do strategic planning plus is what we call it. So we've had a lot of nonprofits that have reached out and said, hey, we need some strategic planning. And I'm like, well, you also need some, racial equity training. So like, why don't we combine this? I think it matters, how we show up to our work is really how the work gets made, right? So we are racial equity consultants. We also work with statewide coalitions on some of the planning that's going in our food system. So we're working with 2 organizations right now, or coalitions right now, as racial equity consultants. And those are like 2-year contracts, which is exciting for us. This is sort of new. We've been doing it for about the past 6 months, and it's very rewarding, and I think it's the type of work that can really kind of change you as a person too. But then with cities and counties, we mostly do, master planning, comprehensive planning, watershed planning on a regional level. We've done flood resilience action plans, and really looking at community planning. So we have some brownfields redevelopment that we've done, and from the community perspective, we worked on affordable housing and also climate resilience projects that are working with kids and teenagers, which is always fun. Any chance I can get to work with kids and teenagers, they just bring so much energy, and it's like, they get it. It's their future. They're, really wanting to engage with what climate change impacts are. I mean, the derecho storm is always something that they can see, that they lived through. And flooding, of course. I think those are probably the 2 that come to mind the most with Iowa. So we try and engage kids and teenagers with activities, video games. You got to throw in the video games.
Of course.
And yeah, so those are some of the plans and projects that we've done. We just won last year 2 statewide awards for our flood resilience action plan in Coralville, and then also a guidebook that we wrote for planners dealing with compounded disasters. So we had derecho with COVID, and then we were worried that we were going to get a flood. So we were like, okay, well, we can't be together, but we need to help. How do we manage that, right? So we literally wrote a guidebook for people because we lived through it. We were like, how do you do this? Yeah, so it's great. I feel really fortunate to be able to do work that I find is so I'm passionate about, and working with people, talking with people like you, and just working with amazing people that are really trying to make the world a better place. It's like every day I get to be excited about my job. When initially I was like, yeah, we'll work in climate change, which is like incredibly depressing. Like, how do we make this, it's exciting and, something that feels actionable. Right. So yeah, I always say, because I got my college degree when I was 33, so I'm got to the late bus there. But to work through community college, finally got my degree at 33 years old, and I got it in environmental studies, which if you do that, it's like getting a degree in like depression and anxiety, because you have to like watch these class videos on like the end of oil and like, all of these things where you're just like, we're never gonna make it. And so you turn around and you're like, no, I'm gonna build a business that we can like do something that's gonna make a difference.
Yeah, amazing. That's great, V.
Yeah. You do what you can.
Yes, exactly. Well, thank you so much for being on today. And I will certainly connect you with those who have shown an interest in connecting with you. So
awesome.
Yeah.
It's great talking with you, Catherine.
Yes, you too. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime. I'll be back and we can talk about all the results from the inclusive economic.
Please. Yes,
yeah,
that would be great.
Fun.
All right. Everybody, thank you so much for joining in today. V, again, thank you. And we will see you next time.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.